Hi there, my name is Amy Sueyoshii. I grew up in San Mateo and I currently live in Daly City. I'm a Sansei on my father's side. He was Kibei Nisei and from Okinawa. And I am Shin Nisei on my mom's side, who is from Tokyo. I write the column Nikkei Q. I have two mentors who've been super important in my career, Tomas Almaguer and Ken Montero, both gay men of color. Tomas is a historical sociologist and he was instrumental in helping me become the historian that I am today. Ken is the former dean of the College of Ethnic Studies who gave me an incredible training to take up his mantle after he left. My advice for younger queer folks is to be the change that you want to see.
My name is Carl Takei. I am a Yonsei, and I'm originally from Sacramento, California. I now live in Brooklyn, New York. I work as a civil rights attorney. I'm one of the co-chairs of Sudo for Solidarity, and I write the column Dissent. What motivates my work for justice is my family history as a Japanese American descendant of incarcerees and the knowledge that that brings about how things could have turned out differently in World War II if more people from outside of our community had worked in solidarity with us and helped us to advocate for our rights.
Hi everyone, my name is Keiji Uesugi, and I write the column Changing Landscapes for the Nichi Bei Weekly. I was born and raised in Southern California and currently live in West Covina, which is a 35-minute drive east of Los Angeles. I am a Nisei landscape architect and 15th generation Japanese garden designer. I also teach landscape architecture at Cal Poly Pomona University and recently started a new course in ethnic studies called the Japanese American Experience in the California Landscape. My father was also a landscape architect and college professor who received international acclaim for bridging the cultures of Japan and the US through his professional and academic works. During my years of working side by side with him, I learned how his hardships of growing up in post-war Japan developed his empathy toward others. These lessons play an important role in how I approach landscape design, which is to create spaces for people of all ages and abilities informed by the processes and beauty of nature.
Hi, I'm Linda Mihara. I'm from San Francisco, born and raised. In fact, I grew up here in Japantown, a half a block away from Paper Tree. I'm a columnist for the Nichi Bei Weekly. I do a column called Origami Now, where I get to share my love of origami with everybody. So some of the lessons that were imparted to me really came through both my parents and my grandparents. And it is the art of origami. As a child, my grandparents actually wrote two of the first books in English on origami. And so I was able to be exposed to that when I was 5 years old. Now my grandparents, or actually my grandfather, actually was blind when I grew up. And so he didn't actually teach me directly, but with the help of my parents and my grandpa's books, they were able to bridge that and we would learn origami together. So it's a wonderful tradition that was handed down in that way. And yes, our business here, the Paper Tree, we're called the Origami Store for a reason. We have a huge selection of origami paper and books, and I get to celebrate the art of origami every day that I'm here. And it's a wonderful tradition to continue. And I think about my grandpa all the time when I do origami.
Konnichiwa. My name is Arissa Hiroi. I'm a Shin Nisei, born and still based in San Francisco. I'm a Japanese teacher in the city, and I write the Nihongo Corner. One of the most enjoyable aspects of my job is getting to share a new culture with students. It gives me joy to see the students get a kick out of their first calligraphy piece, putting on a yukata, or making onigiri. And I really think that these cross-cultural experiences help young people expand their worldview and grow into better adults.
Hi, my name is Reverend Masato Kawahatsu. I'm a minister of Concord Church. I came from Yamaguchi, Ken, Japan, long time ago. I started to send my article of Heart of Kanji about 20 years ago. I started to be columnist because I wish to share an ancient culture of Asia with the American people. I explain about many stories and heart of kanji and Japanese words. This is my calligraphy. Thank you. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Hi, this is Ryan Tatsumoto coming to you from beautiful Kaneohe, Hawaii, where I've lived most of my life other than a 4-year stint going to graduate school in San Francisco. I'm primarily Sansei, other than Grandma Tatsumoto's side where I'm a Yonsei, and I write the column The Gochiso Gourmet. During this prolonged pandemic, the one comfort food that I've indulged in quite a bit is the stratas that I make. A strata is basically a savory bread pudding, but I like to call it a strata because it sounds more professional and sexy. It's an easy dish, baked in one pan. All it calls for is stale bread cubes, a custard with milk and eggs, and your choice of proteins, spices, vegetables. When I cook for friends during this pandemic, it's primarily a slow-cooked either bean, pasta, or both dish. Because as you noticed, during the pandemic, a lot of supermarket shelves were a little bare. So we stocked up on a lot of dry goods like beans, rice, and grains.
Hi, my name is Mika Osaki. I'm originally from San Mateo, California, but I currently live in Yokohama, Japan. I came to Japan 3 years ago with the JET program, and I'm a fourth generation Japanese American, so my column is called Through Yonsei Eyes. It catalogs some of my experiences navigating my identity as someone who's both of Japanese and American heritage and kind of learning the ropes of living and working in Japan. So as someone whose family has been deeply involved in the Japanese American community for 4 generations, something I'd really like to see young leaders who are Yonsei like myself or even Gosei would be to build bridges between other communities and find kind of the common ground we have with other groups here in the States. I do think that there is a lot more in common than there are differences. So I do like to celebrate the differences and build upon the common ground. I do feel that the JET program has really solidified my own identity as a Yonsei, as a Japanese American person. And I've found my own way through kind of navigating these two very opposite cultures. And so what I would like to see in terms of growth moving forward would be really building those bridges with other communities and using our own experiences and our own joy from being Japanese American to build connections with others.
My name is Jeff Asai, and I'm from Milpitas, currently living in Nara, Japan. I'm a Yonsei, and I write the column Fantastic Voyage. As a kid, I was the Asian kid, and after I grew up and moved to Japan, I became known as the American guy. But now, as an assistant minister at a Buddhist temple, I found that has superseded my other identities. Just as you wouldn't go to a dentist with a mouthful of cavities, you wouldn't listen to a minister that doesn't embody the ideals and principles of their religion. So trying to live up to that, while at the same time maintaining my own style and personality, is a kind of balancing act that I hope you could read in my column.
Hi. My name is Ben Hamamoto. I'm originally from Oakland, California. I now live in the Richmond Annex, also in California. And depending on how you count it, I'm either a Yonsei or a Shin Nisei. So to this question of what about our cultural legacy I want to hand down to my kids, I think there's a lot of things that I want them to understand. But I think the most important one is that they actually, have a role in investigating and interrogating what that cultural legacy is. And I think we've all been really fortunate to have Nichi Bei here for us as a community to help facilitate that and really be a resource for keeping the community connected and for having these conversations about what it means to be Japanese American as the community is changing so rapidly. And I really want my kids to consume, support, and even create community media going forward. And so it's really important for me to be able to have Nichi Bei here to be a part of making that happen.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Day of Giving. I'm Linda Okazaki, and my column, Finding Your Nikkei Roots, is all about researching your family history. Now, I'm from the Bay Area, but my husband is Nikkei, born and raised in Tokyo, to a Nihonjin mom and a Nisei dad. So how does my work as a genealogist impact people's lives? Well, I kind of think that researching your family history is kind of like unpacking a suitcase, but instead of clothes, you're unpacking a suitcase full of stories. By uncovering those stories, people begin to understand the lives of their family members, and by sharing those stories, they're providing a legacy for their descendants and for their community.
My name is Satsuki Ina. I'm a third-generation Sansei, born in the Tule Lake Segregation Center during World War II, and raised in San Francisco, Japantown. And I am a licensed psychotherapist. My column is titled Let's Talk, and its focus is on mental health and well-being.
Hello, my name is Greg Robinson. I grew up in New York City originally, but I live in Montreal, Quebec. As far as my generation in the United States, I would be considered Sansei, Yonsei, Kuichi. In Canada, I'm an Issei. I write the column The Great Unknown and the Unknown Great. As a historian, I find that community newspapers like the Nichi Bei are an indispensable source of information on the lives and ideas of Japanese Americans. For example, when I put together the book Pacific Citizens on the Nisei journalist Larry Tajiri and his wife Kuyo, it was fascinating to read the editorials and columns that Larry Tajiri wrote during the 1930s for Nichi Bei Shimbun, the grandparent of Nichi Bei Weekly. So many of the questions he addressed, such as racism, identity, or media and popular images of Japanese Americans, are still with us today.
My name is Chizu Omori. I grew up in Southern California on a farm, and I now live in Oakland. I was incarcerated in the concentration camp Poston in Arizona. I am Nisei. I write a column, Rabbit Ramblings, for the Nichi Bei Weekly and wrote for the Nichi Bei Times before that for a total of over 30 years. I became an activist while I was a student at UC Berkeley in the 50s. At that time, the issues were around McCarthyism and civil rights. In the 60s, I got involved in black civil rights and the anti-Vietnam War protests. In the 70s and 80s, redress for Japanese Americans became the central struggle. Now, anti-Asian problems and the general fight for equality for all non-white Americans are my interests. We need a strong community press for platforms to keep the community together and to inform us of important matters that affect our lives. As long as we maintain identities as Asian Americans, we will need these avenues to knit the community together. I am so lucky to have the venue of the Nichi Bei Weekly to express my views.